The bridge of the human patrol ship Iron Mountain hummed with quiet activity. Captain Kyung-ho sat in his command chair, watching the endless black of space through the main view screen. Stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. His crew worked at their stations with the practiced ease of soldiers who had seen too many battles. It was supposed to be a routine patrol. 3 weeks of checking shipping lanes and monitoring for pirates in the outer rim of human space. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in the Kepler sector. The worst they usually found was smugglers trying to avoid customs or lost. Cargo haulers asking for directions. Communications Officer Hay-One looked up from her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as strange sounds filled the bridge. Static mixed with what sounded like alien voices speaking in panic. She frowned and adjusted the signal strength. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," she said. "It sounds like a distress beacon, but the signal is very weak." Kyung-ho leaned forward in his chair. "Can you clean it up?" Hay-One worked for several minutes. The static slowly cleared, and alien voices became easier to understand. The universal translator kicked in and converted the sounds into words the crew could follow. "This is Villani Trade Convoy 7 Alpha, requesting immediate assistance. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Repeat, we are under attack. We have families aboard, including children. Please help us. Our coordinates are..." The message cut off into static. Then it repeated, the same desperate plea for help over and over again. First Officer Dongman moved to stand beside the captain's chair. "Sir, those are Villani ships. They are peaceful traders. They do not even carry weapons." Kim knew about the Villani, blue-skinned aliens who looked somewhat like tall, thin humans. They traveled the galaxy selling medicine and exotic foods. More importantly, they had always been kind to humans. When human colonies needed medical supplies and could not pay, the Villani gave them away for free. They treated humans as equals. When most alien species looked down on them, "How far away are they?" Kyung-ho asked. Navigator Hyen-Woo checked his instruments. 6 hours at maximum burn, sir. But that will push our engines past safe limits. Engineer So-Young spoke up from her station. "I can give you maximum burn for 8 hours before we risk serious damage to the fusion drives." The captain stood up around the bridge. His crew waited for orders. These were not ordinary humans. They were veterans of the Centauri War. They had fought alien pirates and hostile fleets. Other species in the galaxy called humans Deathworlders because they came from Earth, a planet so dangerous that most aliens could not survive there for even a few days. What made humans truly dangerous was not just their physical strength or their ability to survive in harsh conditions. It was their sense of right and wrong. When they saw innocent people being hurt, something inside them changed. They became something that made even the most warlike alien species step back in fear. "Weapons, Specialist Taejin, load all missile tubes," Kyung-ho ordered. "Prepare the kinetic bombardment system for combat operations." Taejin smiled grimly. "Yes, sir. Which warheads do you want loaded?" "The experimental ones, the ones designed to punch through heavy armor." Medic Ji-Hai began preparing the medical bay for possible casualties. Security Chief Yoonji started checking small arms and body armor. Everyone on the ship knew what was about to happen. The captain looked at his crew one more time. "The Villani have always helped us when we needed it. Now they need our help. Set course for those coordinates. Full burn." So-Young pushed the fusion drives beyond their normal operating parameters. The Iron Mountain leaped forward through space, like a hunting wolf that had caught the scent of its prey. Behind them, space was peaceful and quiet. Ahead of them waited whatever had attacked defenseless alien families. The crew of the Iron Mountain was about to show the galaxy why humans were called Deathworlders, and why that reputation was well earned. The Iron Mountain dropped out of hyperspace at the exact coordinates from the distress signal. What Captain Kyung-ho and his crew found there made even these battle-hardened soldiers go silent. Debris floated everywhere. Pieces of metal and plastic drifted through space like leaves in a deadly wind. The remains of what had once been 17 Villani trade ships spread across several kilometers of empty space. Twisted hull plates caught starlight and threw it back in sharp reflections. Sensor operator Woo Jin stared at his screen in disbelief. "Captain, I am reading massive structural damage to all vessels. Energy weapon burns on every piece of wreckage. No active power signatures. No life signs. The bridge fell completely quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Through the main view screen, they could see the floating graveyard of an entire convoy. Ships that had been carrying families and children were now nothing more than broken metal and shattered dreams. First Officer Dongman pointed to something on the tactical display. Sir, I am detecting escape pods. 17 of them scattered through the debris field. Hope flickered in Captain Kung Ho's chest. Maybe some of the Vellani had survived. Maybe they were not too late after all. Take us to the nearest pod. Prepare for emergency rescue operations. Pilot Yuna carefully moved the Iron Mountain through the debris field. Chunks of destroyed ships bumped against their hull with soft metallic sounds. The first escape pod came into view on the main screen. It had been torn open like a metal flower. The emergency seals were broken from the outside, not the inside. Whatever had been inside was gone. Next pod, Kung Ho ordered quietly. They found the same thing and the same thing again. Every single escape pod had been opened from the outside. Every single one was empty. The attackers had not just destroyed the ships, they had hunted down the survivors and taken them. Intelligence analyst Minho was studying the weapon patterns on his computer. Sir, I can identify the attackers from these energy signatures. Corvin Syndicate, known slave traders and pirates. Security Chief Youngji was examining debris from one of the cargo holds. Her face was pale when she looked up. Captain, you need to see this. She held up a small toy. It was blue and soft, clearly made for a Vellani child. Next to it floated a tiny jacket, sized for someone no bigger than a human. More children's belongings drifted nearby in the cold vacuum of space. The bridge went completely silent. Every member of the crew stared at the evidence floating before them. Families had been here. Children had been here. Now they were gone, taken by slavers who saw innocent lives as nothing more than cargo to be sold. Medic Jihai broke the silence. The Corvins do not usually take prisoners unless they plan to sell them. That means the survivors might still be alive. Navigator Hyan Wu was already working at his station. I can track their ion trail. The Corvin ships left clear engine signatures. When they departed, their course leads toward the Proxima 7 system. Communications Officer Haywon was monitoring Corvin frequencies. She looked up with anger burning in her eyes. I am intercepting their transmissions, sir. They are celebrating. They call it a successful harvest. They are planning to sell the survivors at Kepler Station slave markets. Captain Kyung-ho stood up slowly around him. His crew watched and waited. These humans had seen war before. They had fought pirates and hostile aliens. But this was different. This was not soldiers fighting soldiers. This was the murder of innocent families and the kidnapping of children. Something changed in the captain's eyes. Something cold and deadly that made even his own crew step back slightly. When humans found evidence of cruelty against helpless people, especially children, they became something that the galaxy had learned to fear. Plot a course for the Corvin fleet, he said quietly. Maximum burn. No delays. He paused and looked at each member of his crew. The galaxy calls us Deathworlders today. They will learn exactly what that means. The Iron Mountain turned away from the floating graveyard and leaped toward revenge. The Iron Mountain raced through space like a predator following the scent of blood. Captain Kyung-ho stood on the bridge watching the star charts as his ship pursued the Corvin fleet. 3 star systems lay between them and their target. 3 systems where innocent Vellani families were being held captive by slavers who had murdered their relatives. Chief Engineer Saw Young worked frantically at her station. Her hands moved quickly across control panels as she rerouted power from every non-essential system on the ship. Life support dropped to minimum levels. Gravity generators were reduced to half power. Even the lighting dimmed to save energy. Every bit of power that could be spared went to the engines and weapons. I can give you 12 more hours at maximum burn, she reported to the captain. After that, we risk permanent damage to the fusion drives, but I can also boost our stealth systems. The Corvons will not see us coming until we are right on top of them. The crew worked in the dim light and thin air without complaint. These were humans from Earth, a planet where the atmosphere was thick enough to poison most alien species and the gravity was strong enough to crush their bones. Reduced life support was uncomfortable but not dangerous for people who had evolved on a Deathworld. Communications officer Hay-1 intercepted more Corvin transmissions as they traveled. The messages painted a picture that made the human crew's anger burn even hotter. The slavers were not just criminals, they were organized, professional. This was not their first attack on innocent travelers. They are talking about their base. In the Proxima 7 asteroid field, she reported it sounds like a major operation. They mentioned 43 ships and over 2,000 personnel. They have been raiding trade routes for years. Intelligence analyst Minho was building a complete picture of their enemy. His computer screens showed ship designs, weapon capabilities, and tactical formations. The numbers were not encouraging for a single human patrol vessel. The Corvin fleet has heavy cruisers with plasma cannons and energy shields. He said, their asteroid base has defensive platforms and automated weapon systems. They also have fighter squadrons for close combat support. First Officer Dongmin looked at the tactical display and shook his head. Sir, the odds are impossible. One ship against an entire fleet. Even with our advantages, we cannot survive a direct assault. Captain Kung Ho studied the information on his command screens. Any reasonable military commander would call for reinforcements. Any sane person would report the situation to Fleet Command and wait for a proper task force. The smart thing to do was to gather more ships and more weapons before taking on such a large enemy force. But the Villani survivors did not have time for reinforcements. Every hour that passed meant more suffering for the innocent families who had been taken. Every day of delay meant some of those prisoners might be sold and disappear forever into the galaxy's slave markets. The captain looked around at his crew. I want volunteers only. What we are about to do is suicide by any normal military standard. Anyone who wants to transfer to a life pod and wait for pickup can do so with no shame. Not a single person moved. Every member of the crew remained at their station. Weapons Specialist Taejin spoke first. Sir, I have been working with Engineer So-young on modifications to our nuclear warheads. We can convert them into kinetic penetrators. They will punch through Corvin shields like they were made of paper. Marine Commander Inesio stepped forward. My boarding teams are ready, sir. We have been practicing zero-gravity assault techniques. Close quarters combat is where humans have the biggest advantage over other species. Pilot Yuna checked her flight computers. I have been calculating attack patterns that use maximum G-force acceleration. Most alien species cannot handle the forces that humans can survive. We can outmaneuver them in ways they cannot match. One by one, every crew member reported their preparations. Cyber warfare specialist Chang Su had found ways to hack Corvin. Computer systems. Security Chief Yoonji had prepared specialized weapons for boarding actions. Even ship psychologist Jay Ho had recommendations for psychological warfare tactics. The hunt continued for 18 hours. The Iron Mountain followed. The Ion Trail through 3 different star systems, getting closer to their target with each jump. The crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for a battle that would make history one way or another. As they approached the Proxima 7 system, long-range sensors began picking up signals from the Corvin base. It was exactly as the Intercepted Communications had described. A massive asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress. Defensive platforms surrounded it like metal moons. Patrol ships moved in regular patterns around the perimeter. Navigator Hyen Wu studied the asteroid field on his screens. Sir, the field is dense with debris and rocks. We can use them for cover if we approach carefully. But once we start shooting, they will know exactly where we are. Communications Officer Hay-1 was still monitoring enemy transmissions. The Villani prisoners are definitely inside the base. I can hear references to cargo holds and processing centers. They are preparing to move the survivors to Kepler Station within the next 48 hours. Time was running out. Soon the innocent families would be scattered across the galaxy, sold to buyers who would never let them go. This was the last chance to save them. Captain Kyung-ho called his senior officers together for a final planning session. The tactical situation was simple and terrible. One human ship with a crew of 57 people against a fortress defended by thousands of Corvin slavers. We have 3 advantages, he told them. First, they do not know we are coming. Second, Humans can survive conditions that would kill most other species. Third, they think we are just another patrol ship that will run away when faced with superior numbers. He paused and looked at each of his officers. They are about to learn that humans do not run away when innocent people need help. They are about to discover why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. The Iron Mountain drifted silently through the outer edge of the asteroid field. Inside the ship, 57 humans prepared for battle. They checked weapons and equipment one final time. They said quiet prayers and made peace with the possibility of death. But they also smiled cold smiles and felt the hunting instincts that had carried their species from the caves of Earth to the stars. The Corvins had made a fatal mistake. They had hurt innocent people. They had taken children from their families. Now the Deathworlders were coming for them. The Iron Mountain emerged from hyperspace directly inside the asteroid field like a ghost materializing from the darkness. Captain Kung Ho had chosen the most dangerous entry point possible, dropping his ship between two massive floating rocks that would crush any vessel that miscalculated by even a few meters. The Corvin patrol ships never saw them coming. Pilot Yuna kept the Iron Mountain hidden behind drifting asteroids as they moved closer to the enemy base. Her hands danced across the control surfaces with inhuman precision. The ship twisted and rolled through gaps that seemed impossible, using chunks of rock and metal as cover. First patrol ship in range. Weapons Specialist Taejin reported quietly. Single Corvin cruiser. Shields down. Weapons powered, but not targeted. Captain Kung Ho studied the tactical display. The enemy ship was alone, separated from its companions by several kilometers of asteroid debris. It was the perfect target to begin their attack. Fire, he ordered. The modified kinetic warhead shot out from the Iron Mountain like a spear thrown by an angry god. It crossed the distance between the two ships in less than 3 seconds. The Corvin cruiser's shields flickered on automatically, but they were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The warhead punched through the enemy shield like it was made of soap. It tore through the hull plating and exploded deep inside the ship's engine room. The Corvin cruiser simply vanished in a brief flash of light and expanding gas. Target destroyed, Taejin reported. No survivors. The other patrol ships reacted. Quickly, alarms began sounding across the Corvin fleet as they realized they were under attack. But the humans had planned for this. Cyber warfare specialist Chang Su was already inside their computer networks, turning their own systems against them. Defense platforms began firing at each other as their targeting systems were compromised. Automated weapon systems identified friendly ships as hostile targets. Communication networks filled with false information and contradictory orders. Chaos protocol is working, Chang-Su reported with satisfaction. Their coordination is breaking down. They do not know how many ships are attacking them or where. We are. The Iron Mountain continued its deadly dance through the asteroid field. Pilot Yuna pushed the ship through maneuvers that generated 8 times Earth's gravity. Most alien species would be crushed unconscious by such forces. Humans found them uncomfortable but manageable. 3 more Corvin ships died in the first 10 minutes of combat. The modified warheads were devastatingly effective against shields designed to stop conventional weapons. Each shot was a kill shot. Each target was eliminated completely. Defense platforms are turning toward us. Navigator Hyenwu warned. They have figured out our approximate position. The asteroid base began firing massive plasma cannons in their direction. Bolts of superheated energy lit up the space around them like artificial lightning. One shot came close enough to vaporize a small asteroid only 50 meters from their hull. But the humans had advantages that the Corvins could not match. Engineer So-Young had boosted their stealth systems beyond normal parameters. The Iron Mountain's heat signature was almost invisible against the cold rock of the asteroids. Their electromagnetic emissions were masked by the natural radiation of the system's star. The Corvin gunners were shooting at shadows and ghosts, beginning assault on the main base. Captain Kung Ho announced to his crew, "Marines, prepare for boarding operations." Marine Commander Inesso had been waiting for this moment. His boarding teams were already suited up and ready. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were humans who had trained for combat in environments that would kill most other species. Vacuum, radiation, extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres. None of these things stopped human Marines when they had a job to do. The Iron Mountain slammed into the side of the hollowed out asteroid like a battering ram. The impact sent shockwaves through both vessels. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically as atmosphere vented into space. But the humans had planned for this too. Cutting charges blew holes through the asteroid's outer hull. Marine teams poured through the gaps, wearing powered armor and carrying weapons designed for close combat. They moved through the station's corridors like wolves hunting prey. The Corvan defenders were not prepared for human tactics. Most alien species fought at long range with energy weapons and defensive positions. Humans preferred to get close where their physical advantages mattered most. They were stronger, faster, and more aggressive than almost any other species in the galaxy. Security Chief Yunji led one team through the station's lower levels, searching for the prison sections where the Villani survivors were being held. Her squad moved through areas that had lost atmosphere, fighting in hard vacuum while their enemies struggled with bulky environmental suits. Found them, she reported over the comm system. 743 Villani civilians in the main detention area. They are alive but in poor condition. Marine Commander Inesio was fighting his way toward the station's command center. His teams had split up to cover more ground, each squad moving independently through different sections of the base. The Corvan defenders tried to organize a counterattack, but human tactics were too unpredictable. When corridors were blocked, the Marines blew new holes through the walls. When enemies tried to use defensive positions, the humans attacked from unexpected directions. When the Corvans attempted to flood sections with poison gas, the Marines simply sealed their suits and kept fighting. The battle became a systematic extermination. The humans showed no mercy to enemies who had murdered innocent families and kidnapped children. Every Corvan they found was eliminated. No prisoners were taken. No quarter was given. Command center secured. Inesio reported. All Corvan personnel eliminated. Medical teams began evacuating the Villani survivors while combat engineers searched for any remaining enemies. The rescue operation was methodical and thorough. Every prison cell was checked. Every hiding place was examined. Every survivor was accounted for. In less than 2 hours, the entire Corvan operation had been destroyed. 43 ships reduced to debris. Over 2,000 slavers eliminated. One of the galaxy's largest criminal organizations wiped out completely. The Iron Mountain pulled away from the ruined asteroid base with 847 rescued Villani aboard. Behind them, the fortress that had terrorized peaceful traders for years was nothing but wreckage and floating metal. Captain Kyung-ho looked at the tactical display one final time. Every enemy contact was gone. The threat had been eliminated. Completely no survivors, he said quietly. No mercy. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. The Iron Mountain arrived at Galactic Station Prime 3 days after the destruction of the Corvan base. Captain Kyung-ho stood on the bridge watching the massive space station grow larger on the main view screen. Ships from dozens of different alien species filled the docking bays and traffic patterns around the station. Behind him, the ship's corridors were filled with Villani survivors. 847 civilians who had been rescued from certain slavery. Medical Officer Ji-hai had worked around the clock to treat their injuries and trauma. Many of them were still recovering from the horror of watching their families murdered and their ships destroyed. Communications Officer Hae-won looked up from her station. Sir, we are receiving priority communication requests from over 30 different news networks. The Galactic Council is also requesting immediate debriefing, and there are 17 different species asking for formal audiences with you. The captain was not surprised. Word of what had happened at Proxima 7 had spread through the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. A single human patrol ship had destroyed an entire criminal fleet and rescued nearly 1,000 prisoners. The mathematics was simple and terrifying to other species. Send out complete battle records to Galactic Command first, Kyung-ho ordered. Full sensor logs, weapon telemetry, casualty reports, everything. I want every species in the galaxy to know exactly what happened and why. Ship's historian Sungman had been working on the official report for the past 72 hours. The numbers told a story that would be remembered for generations. One human ship with 57 crew members had eliminated 2,156 Corvan slavers. They had destroyed 43 enemy vessels and one heavily fortified base. Human casualties were exactly 0. The rescue operation had been equally impressive. All 847 Villani survivors had been recovered alive. The humans had provided medical care, food, and emotional support during the journey back to civilized space. They had treated the traumatized aliens with the same care they would show their own families. Intelligence analyst Minho was monitoring galactic communications networks to track the reaction to their mission. The response was unlike anything he had seen before. Some species were expressing fear at human military capabilities. Others were showing admiration for human moral courage. Many were asking for protection agreements with human forces. Sir, piracy reports in the outer sectors have dropped by 60% in the past week, he reported. Criminal organizations are avoiding areas where human patrols might be operating. The Corvan Syndicate had allies and trading partners. All of them have gone silent. The docking procedure at Galactic Station Prime was unlike any the Iron Mountain had experienced before. Instead of being assigned to a standard military berth, they were directed to the diplomatic section where only the most important vessels were allowed to dock. Honor guards from multiple species lined the docking bay. As Captain Kung Ho walked down the boarding ramp, he was met by Elder Zephany, the senior Villani representative on the Galactic Council. The tall, blue-skinned alien moved slowly, still recovering from injuries suffered during the attack on the convoy. But his eyes were bright with gratitude and determination. Captain Kung Ho, Elder Zephany said in accented but clear human language. On behalf of all Villani people, I thank you and your crew for what you have done. You have saved not just lives, but families. Children who will grow up free because of your courage. The formal ceremony in the Galactic Council chambers was broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to hear the testimony of the Villani, survivors, and the human rescue team. Elder Zephany spoke first. His words were translated into dozens of languages and transmitted across the galaxy. We have heard other species call humans dangerous Deathworlders. We have heard them described as violent and unpredictable. Today, I tell you what, we have learned humans are dangerous only to those who prey upon the innocent. They are violent only toward those who would harm the defenseless. The Villani Elder's testimony continued for over an hour. He described the attack on the convoy, the murder of families, the kidnapping of children. He spoke of the human rescue, the medical care provided by the Iron Mountain's crew, and the complete destruction of the Corvan operation. When Captain Kung Ho was invited to speak, he kept his words simple and direct. We did not do this for glory or recognition. We did it because innocent people were being hurt and someone needed to stop it. The Villani have always been friends to humanity. When our colonies needed medicine and could not pay, they gave it freely. When our people were sick, they healed them without asking for anything in return. He paused and looked around the chamber at representatives from species that had often looked down on humans as primitive and violent. You call us Deathworlders. You fear us because we come from a dangerous planet and we are strong. But understand this, we use that strength to protect life, not destroy it. We use our power to defend those who cannot defend themselves. The captain's final words became the most quoted statement in galactic history. Call us Deathworlders if you want, but remember that death comes for those who prey on the innocent. And remember that we will always answer when peaceful people call for help. The ceremony concluded with the presentation of the Galactic Cross of Honor, the highest award that could be given to non-council species. But the real impact of the event was not the medal or the speeches. It was the fundamental change in how the galaxy viewed humanity. Within 6 months, 12 different species had requested formal protection agreements with human forces. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to piracy were reopened under human patrol. The Outer Rim territories, which had been lawless for decades, became safe for peaceful commerce. The Iron Mountain continued its patrols, but now it was not alone. Volunteer ships from friendly species often joined their missions. Young aliens applied to serve on human vessels. wanting to learn from the Deathworlders who had become the galaxy's protectors. Piracy in human-patrolled sectors dropped to almost zero. Criminal organizations that had operated for centuries simply disappeared. The message was clear and simple. Hurt innocent people, and the humans would come for you. There would be no mercy. There would be no survivors. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about the species from the dangerous world called Earth. Humans were indeed deadly and dangerous, but they directed that danger toward those who deserved it. They used their strength to protect the weak and their courage to defend the innocent. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's guardians, and the universe was a safer place because of it.